not sure if I have a good point for what I'm saying.
Doesn't matter.
There's a book and a movie called Peaceful Warrior.
Oh, yeah.
Dan Millman was the author. And it talks about a lot of this stuff in a different sense, and sort of the internal and personal journey that you take. I just think just makes some really, really good points about like striving for things and wanting things and what you have to go through to realize that the wanting of them, the striving for them, is getting in the way of you actually getting. I'm not sure where I'm going with that, but just some of what you've been saying about dragons and demons. It's kind of
Metaphorically speaking, you know.
yeah. But it's like that whole movie is about this one guy, and it's a true story. The whole movie and book, it's a true story. It's about this one guy, basically, his process of confronting his dragon and his demon, and how I don't know. It's hard to summarize, but it's worth watching.
Wasn't like in the movie it had Nick Nolte and the guy was doing like Olympic trials.
Yeah, and he breaks his leg doing something.
Right, so he's faced with his whole life not being able to be the athlete that he trained his whole life to be, but then he works through that with the help of this guy.
Does he go back into this career, or does he just completely change his career?
It's kind of funny. The guy gets him to let go of the career and says, "You can't walk anymore. Like, you can't do it." And then eventually, when he's like, it gets to some point, and he's like, "Okay, now you have to do it," because it's really. He gets him to let everything go, and he internally lets everything go, and then starts over again. But when he starts over again, it's different.
It's a new person.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. New drive.
And the whole scene on top of the bell tower is him basically confronting his demon and his dragon. I don't know.
There's been a drip.
My bad.
I don't care, Dad. Who cares?
The material world has
A little soggy on the floor. It's okay. It happens when you drink sake.
Yeah, it's about, I think spirituality or anything's about taking action. We get so set in our worlds, like an actress is not who they are, and a doctor is not who they are, and a kung fu technician is not who they are, and socially doesn't represent who you are spiritually, but it is a means of discovering. If you were a big time actor, would you be who you are now? You would have a different path, and all of that is irrelevant to who you are spiritually. Each one, it's what you gain from it, where you gain, and what you can gain from it. And the amazing thing about society today is that the world's become so small. It's become so small because of the internet and our communications and stuff. There's so much knowledge that you can gain from so many people, but we still don't use it. We get locked in our bubbles in our world. And you got all these young children coming up, and you got somebody in India that's talking to some young person here in the United States, and somebody in the United States is talking to somebody in China. All these young people, they don't want all the things that are happening in the world. It's just really nice that they're talking to one another. So this is the new generation that's coming up. And hopefully this new generation could do something different. But yet they're taught old thoughts. And they forget how much there is out there, how much knowledge we have to gain, besides the material knowledge. And we talked about, guns. We talk about guns, and the gun laws are just, crazy. And when you think about guns, well, I think, when you talk about it, just logic. No one in this room, so you're training in the martial arts, and the martial arts is much more deadlier than a gun, except a person who has a gun and knows how to use it. And that's rare these days. But I think that, so nobody in this room has a gun, not that I know of, right? But your bodies and your training is like having a gun, even worse than having a gun, especially depending on the range. And that's why knives to me are so much more deadlier. But a gun has, in the hands of somebody who knows how to use it, I use the gun as far as through the kung fu, which is much different than using a gun at somebody that points and shoots. And I won't demonstrate that on camera. But the point is that, you know, somebody knows how to point and shoot a gun and really can hit their mark is a very dangerous person. You know, and I'm a very dangerous, and you guys can be very dangerous at a closer range with a gun. If someone knows how to use a gun from a distance, can be here from standing whatever feet away from you, and there's no way you're going to get to them, and they're going to shoot you no matter what you do. So who's carrying the guns? Who's carrying the guns is the people that want to hurt you. You know, it's the criminals that are carrying the guns. And they're not really criminals, they're just locked into the world. So my belief is, as well, train people how to carry a gun.
That's what they do in
Everybody should
square
get-
states.
In all states, we should all be
This goes-
trained. People, like, if you talk about defense, you know, and getting off the subject about spirituality and God, you know, nothing works. Nothing works. You can't say everybody should carry a gun, because then you just have mass chaos. Oh man, I like this basketball player. Yeah, well, I like this. Yeah, well, you're wrong, pal, and they shoot him. I think anybody that should be allowed to carry a gun, if you wanted to carry a gun, then you should be trained how to use it. You should be trained in scenarios, and you should not, if a person's running from you, not shoot him 5 times in the back. And in all the movies, you know, where they have a shot where they could shoot the guy in the hand or something like this, they shoot the guy 7 times in the face. You know, like, oh, you know, like, you know, you don't have to do that. The whole point is that in society, we need training. We need to know what to do in a violent situation. You know, we make freaking movies. There was this movie that I talked about earlier called, in the last, called Taken. And we make movies like this is in a reality. Now, the Hollywood in the movie is the way that the movie is, but this stuff's really going down. You know, young women are being kidnapped, are drugged up, and are put in some meat camp where people are just coming in and testing them out till they're ready to go to market. It's like a freaking cattle. Like, human beings doing this to human beings. I guarantee if the young girl knew how to use a gun, those guys would be a little bit careful about breaking into the house and taking them. And if they were trained. In other words, you have to go through training, you have to go through different psychological programs, you have to go through different, and yes, there are going to be some nuts that are going to slip through the net, or somewhere along the line. But that's just life. Somebody's going to kill their whole family and throw them under the Christmas tree. You know, that's just life. People just sometimes go insane.
But are you suggesting that the
I'm
majority
suggesting
of the
that
people,
need training.
everyone?
Everyone should have some type of training to, one, protect themselves, and, you know, the people that are in the ghettos and the stuff, they're just a victim of their environment. We need to change things.
Well, not even,
Obviously, we can't change things.
but not even guns. I mean, the difference that you can get just from.
Well, I'm
having
saying
people
martial
trained
art.
in
Martial art is a long time down the road, and there's so many different. The martial arts have become so commercial now that it's whatever it is. So, you know, to train in true martial arts is a very difficult thing. To train to use a gun is not. So, you know, if you use the martial arts in gun technique, it's a lot different than learning how to target. And when I talk about training like in a self-defense, you know, I mean, you know, you have to go under some intense training. It's like taking your license today. The drivers here in New Jersey, where we're at, are terrible. They're terrible. Well, make the driving test a little bit harder. So the kid doesn't get their license at 17. They got to work harder for it. And I know that's tough, but they've got to be better drivers. And when a person learns how to shoot a gun and learns the ramifications of what a gun can do, it's not simply like, oh, I got you know, like you're watching Steven Seagal and he gets just a flesh wound. No, your freaking arm's torn off. You know, it's no such thing as a flesh wound, you know, unless you're completely lucky. You know, it's not, doesn't work that way. What does the damage behind it do? You know, what does a gun really do, and what is the damage behind it? Then you're going to have people that are going to have more self-respect. And, you know, even like in the psychology of it, even a more respect for life. Like, God, I just blew this guy's brains out. I had to clean that up at one time. Somebody got their brains blown out, and I had to help them out with that. It's not fun when you realize the damage that it does. We just